What do you get when you mix saltwater, sky-high stoke, and a fearless woman with a kite? Welcome to Performance Lab. I'm Dr. Michael Donovan, and today's guest is Nadja Bianchet, a kiteboarder who's not just riding waves, but rewriting the script for women in extreme sports. From crashing hard to flying high, Nadja shares her journey through the wind-whipped world of kiteboarding, mental toughness, body image, and what it really means to show up fully as a female athlete. We're talking empowerment, mindfulness, and making space for women to take the leap, literally. Hold on tight. This one's got lift. All right. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'd like to just start out with what would make this conversation a win for you?
What would make this conversation a win? Probably just to highlight a little bit what female athletes go through in an extreme sport or trying to enter an extreme sport, and also slightly touching on the journey and the ups and downs and what makes it worth it.
Awesome.
The sport in general.
Awesome. So let's just dive in with a few like rapid fire questions just to kind of get us warmed up. If your life had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh my God, what a question. Wow. No, I wouldn't have a theme song, but I really like the background music or the starting music of Catwoman because there is no lyrics, but it's really intense and it goes through a lot of up and downs and really high highs and low lows. And sometimes when I'm running or walking or doing a walking meditation, I listen to that and I'm like, oh, I can see my life in that, but I
Awesome.
don't know the name of it. I can
Cool.
share it later.
Yeah, totally. You grew up in the mountains of Austria, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell me about your parents and your childhood growing up in Austria.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town in Austria called Villach, right on the border to Italy and Slovenia. Had a really beautiful childhood, a few struggles here and there. Didn't have a lot of self-esteem or confidence growing up. So that's something interesting, like in the culture, I feel like. And yeah, what else to tell you? It's a landlocked country. I grew up skiing and snowboarding. You're born on two skis, I feel like, when you're from that area. And yeah, I have one sister.
Nice. Were your
Yeah.
parents into athletics at all?
They were into skiing, but not really sporty or working out much or putting an emphasis on healthy living.
Okay. Did your parents give you any good advice when you were growing up that kind of led you in the direction you're in now?
Good at what advice? I'm not sure. I know growing up, there was a cultural emphasis on life is tough, don't cry, and do better. But when I first came to the US, it was a shock how everyone encouraged the kids and said no matter what they were doing great. And that's a big cultural difference from where I come from. It's never, you're just being told if you're good or not good, or if you're not good enough. And that was a big cultural difference when I first came to the US, where everyone, no matter what they did or how well they did, they were always like, you did great. I'm like, did they really do great? I don't know. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you came to California as an au pair, right? And so
Yeah.
did you experience that with the family you were working with?
Yeah. Yeah. I experienced that. I was even educated on not telling the kids that they are not doing well. So even when their writing was terrible or they made a lot of errors, I was still having to tell them that they're doing great. Which are like, okay, I don't know. I can't tell which way is better, I'm like, both I feel like in the long term causes issues.
Right. So it was when in LA when you were exposed to kiteboarding first?
Yeah. I mean, I saw it in Italy on a vacation one time. I was like, oh, I really want to do that. It looks so cool, but it's a really expensive sport. It's hard to get into it, especially if you live in a landlocked country where I grew up. And then, yeah, there was no chance my parents would afford lessons or equipment. And when I moved to the US, I saw it again in Malibu, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get into it. Looked it up. Lessons were super expensive. I went with the cheapest option. Some guy in Malibu teaching out of his van. Bad choice. Didn't teach me well. Didn't tell me about all the safeties and stuff. Later on, years after, I noticed he was in a lot of lawsuits and stuff because of it as well. So, yeah, I mean, I just stuck with it. It was a struggle to learn. Lots of, we call them kite mares issues, equipment failures, just not knowing, just not being safe, not wanting or being able to spend the money to really learn properly, being on the wrong equipment, just not knowing, but still sticking with it. And I mean, if I would have known what I put myself into, I probably wouldn't have continued. But I was just determined, like, I'm gonna get it. And I
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
eventually.
So how much were
Mhm.
you doing it when you first started? Like just kind of dabbling in it?
Yeah, I mean, it was just hard to. It's super wind dependent, and there's a wind window, especially in LA or Southern California, where the wind kicks in around noon or 1 p.m. and goes until 5 p.m. Those hours are usually working hours, right? I'm with the kids, I'm picking the kids up from the school, I have to do things, or people are at work. So you got to be really ready for the win and be like, okay, the win is coming up. It's 1 p.m. You got to be ready, in a way. So that was hard to manage. So weekends were the times where I was, no matter what, just sitting at the beach ready for the win and ready to go. And I didn't know much about wind and weather at that time too, so I would just go and sit there by myself for hours. I'm like, okay, no wind today. I didn't know there was a forecast. I didn't know weather models. Now all that changed, but you live, you learn.
Right. Right. It reminds me a couple of years ago, I went to Costa Rica and went surfing for the first time, and how much you learn when you're getting into something, exactly how to read the waves and those kinds of things. And I never, it changed my perspective of looking at the ocean and saying, oh, now would be a good time to go surfing. And I never looked at the ocean in that way before, because it wasn't
Hmm.
important to me what the waves were doing. So yeah, that's interesting. There's sometimes a really narrow window, and it's like, yeah, you can't go any otherwise.
Hmm.
So you have a background in like aerial acrobats and dance a bit too, right? How has that influenced your
Yeah.
approach to what you're doing now?
I mean, being in gymnastics, basically, or any performing art, you just are really aware of your body and where your body is in space and how to move your body in space. And I think that really accelerated my progression once it got to the point where I was doing tricks in a sense. So doing rotations and flips just is a lot more natural than to someone that hasn't done gymnastics or aerial arts previously.
Yeah.
If you can put your kid into gymnastics early on, it really helps with sports later.
Yeah, totally. If your body doesn't break down from the training, gymnastics is
Mm,
tough on the body, I hear.
yeah, all in balance.
Yeah. So it seems like there's also an element of mental toughness that's gone into your success, persisting. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to kiting or wing foiling or any of the wind sports, it takes a long time to get good at it. And when we're coaching and when I used to work for schools, we saw that there is about a 75% dropout rate just because people come into the sport not knowing what to expect. And once they take one or two lessons or three lessons, they realize this actually takes commitment and time to learn. You got to learn kind of how to fly the plane, which is your kite, how to control the plane. You got to understand wind, weather, water. And there's so much to it that it just takes time. You got to put your hours in. And the first few hours you're putting in, it's not necessarily fun, You see people on the water riding around, jumping. It looks fun and easy. And then you're actually getting to it. You're like, oh, this is exhausting. It's mentally exhausting and physically exhausting just because it's super counterintuitive when you're learning it. So you really gotta retrain your brain on how to respond. And there's a lot of consequence. You're attached to a lot of power. So a lot of people try it out and step away from it. And then I think there is something to say. It hooks people that are really determined to do hard things or train themselves to do hard things.
Have you had any serious injuries?
I did tore my ACL, MCL, LCL, and yeah, just the knees are definitely a big thing in kiteboarding. But all these injuries always came from this things where I was getting tired or not paying attention. I've never did something where I was practicing something hard, really focused, and then got injured. It's always the times where I'm like, end of the session, I've been already out for hours. I'm just playing around, I do something stupid, and there you go, ACL gone. It
Uh,
was never this is really hard. I'm hitting rails or features and I'm focused to progress. I never got hurt doing that because I'm just focused.
mhm. Yeah. What is your
There's an in,
training? Go ahead.
there's a risk for injury, of course, with every sport.
Absolutely. What does your training look like? I know I was talking to a professional mountain biker a few years ago, and he said, if he trains, let's say 30 hours a week, only like 5 of those hours was actually on the mountain bike. The rest of the time was in the gym and on a road bike and just building up his general fitness. I'm curious, obviously there's the skill element to it, but there's also the just making your body as bulletproof as possible, right? I'm sure you do a lot off the board as well.
Yeah, I especially now I focus more on really taking good care of my body. Crashes are hard, especially if the better you get, the harder the crashes and the more of these crashes you got to take. So I put a big emphasis on um, resistance training. And then I do a lot of mobility and stretching and rolling out, foam rolling. I get a lot of massages done. I do a lot of heat and cold exposure. I mean, that's my day to day basically. Every day without fail, I do something. Like I usually also have a plan in place and I do it in like 12 weeks increments where I have a resistance training plan from a coach and I move through that. Every 4 weeks it changes, every 2 weeks the weight changes. And it's a program specifically designed to work on imbalances and it's for strength. So part of it is strength and part of it focuses on power and aggressive motion.
Do you have like a skill coach as well, or are you kind of at the stage where you know how to train the skills?
I don't anymore, not consistently. Every time I go to Brazil and there's the opportunity to work with specific coaches, I take an hour here and there, which is super helpful. It always changes the game. It's just, you can't put a price on it, how helpful it is to have someone that understands the sport and understands the body to look at it, take a video, and point out exactly like what you need to do. You could do one trick a million times and it's not working out, and he can look at it one time and can tell you exactly what to change, and you land it. Game changer.
Right. Totally.
Mhm.
A good coach is invaluable for sure. Uh,
Mhm.
so speaking of Brazil, I know you have some camps and retreats coming up.
Mhm.
Tell me about those and why what someone would get out of attending those.
Yeah, so me and another pro rider, female, Sensi Graves, host retreats for kiteboarding and wing foiling all over the place in the Caribbean, Mexico, Brazil, Outer Banks, Hood River, Oregon. And it's specifically for women. So it's a big focus on women empowerment, confidence building, but also skill building. It's still, the industry is super male dominated. It's a big boys club. We're still, as female athletes, fighting every day for more equality in the industry. And we just want to provide that safe space for women to learn and to progress their skills. Lots of women only come to the sport because their husband or their boyfriend introduces them to it. And it's really rare to have female coaches that can really bring you to a certain level or like surpass the the basic level of kiteboarding or wing foiling. And we really try to put an emphasis on getting women to a point where they're so confident in their skill that they can go out there and they don't need a man to tell them what to do and have them, cater to them. They're still like, even sometimes when I go kiting, I have guys tell me like what to do in a way where they're like, "Are you sure you're gonna take this side of kite?" I'm like, "I'm good. I know what I'm doing. Thank you." And I know they don't mean anything by it. They're trying to be helpful, but sometimes that will shatter a woman's confidence and question their choice, which is not necessary, let them just do their thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I feel like the more confidence we can instill in women and the more skills we can give them, it opens up the sport a little bit more.
Yeah. Do you think there's an ideal, whether it's a perception or like physiologically a reality, is there an ideal physique for your sport?
No, I mean, really everyone can do it, especially if you're taking lessons and moving through a step-by-step approach. It's accessible to everyone. And I taught 5-year-old little girls to a 300-pound, 60-year-old man. And it's accessible to everyone. It's just a matter of, the time and effort you're putting in, but really everyone can do it. There is no limitation. There is equipment for everyone and it's doable. And you can do every sport at, your own pace. You don't have to go out there and do 20-meter jumps and backflips and front flips. You can just go and cruise and enjoy the wind and the water.
Yeah. What's your next like career aspiration in as an athlete?
Yeah, we're also trying to move into the health and wellness space and performance space a little bit with our camps and retreats. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, more as like an accountability body and helping people to stick to their goals and guide them a little bit into the right direction. Just having someone that's in your corner and is there to redirect you a little bit or assess what's going well, what's not going well, and just helps a lot from my experience. For myself, I love having a coach and someone that can just keep me in check and hold me accountable to my goals and makes me do certain things. And it's just so different if you're tracking behavior and have to report behavior changes. Without tracking behavior, without having to report behavior, it's really hard to stick to it. And I think coaches are so valuable in that field, especially if you're trying to make progress in health and performance or your wellness.
Yeah. I know you move around a lot throughout the year. Are you able to stick to a kind of consistent routine from a health and wellness standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, that's because I'm moving around so much and I'm never at the same place, or I only get to spend 3 months in one place or 5 weeks in one place. My routine and taking care of my body and doing my daily stretching and mobility work and my training, that's the one thing that keeps me grounded. That's what always makes me feel like home. I'm like, okay, I have my resistant bands, I have my yoga mat, I have my little Kiba balls to roll out on. And that's kind of where I find that grounding and that sense of home.
Yeah. It sounds like it's really important to maintain that momentum, keep that momentum going by having a consistent routine. We met a few months ago at a biohacking conference, and I wonder if you mentioned like hot and cold, that kind of suggests that area. Do you have any other practices that you would kind of consider, any tools or tactics or strategies or anything?
Yeah, I do. I spend a lot of time sitting in silence and just reflect or give my brain space to think and reflect on things, to visualize and meditate on certain things. And it's another way to just de-stress and really reset my day. I think meditation is one of if I'm not meditating or sitting in silence or have that quiet time every day, I'm a mess. So it really changes my mental game and how I can show up every day for myself and other people in this world.
Absolutely. What does meditation look like for you?
I sit cross-legged on the ground. I have a candle. Big fan of essential oils too, or sage. And then I have my big noise canceling headphones on. Sometimes I have an eye mask to just to blend out any distraction. And I either listen to a Joe Dispenza meditation. I really like his breathing technique and his future self meditation. He has good cues to visualize, like, okay, what do you want your future self to look like, or how would your future self show up in this world? And it's just a nice way to focus on the positive and get one step closer to your goals and what you visualize for yourself.
Awesome. Is that more of like how do you want to feel, or how do you want to be doing, or?
Yeah, it's his focus is really to evoke an emotion and combine it with a vision of yourself. So I would say both.
Okay. I was working with a coach recently who kind of posed a 3-step thing of like my future me feels this way, and to create that feeling, my future me does these things, and then okay, that's in the future. What can I do like today to just move in that direction? I found that
Mhm.
that framework really helpful.
Yeah, it's like get up and walk and do what your future self would do.
That's right. Yeah, that embodiment, right, of not just the
Mhm.
concept of what you want to be, but really embodying it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm looking at my future self is somewhat nomadic, and I'm interested in how that. If you have any if you have any tips for me of like we're thinking about buying a camper van and spending several months next spring and summer traveling across the country and doing some mountain biking and just exploring, visiting friends all over the country. And I think one of the things we recently moved from North Carolina to Denver, and it's also important to cultivate relationships here. And I wonder how you strike that balance of, having that social connection and friends when you're kind of on the move.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, especially when it comes to relationships, it's harder to maintain contact. Thankfully, the wind community and wind industry, everyone changes their lives so it fits the wind and they can chase the wind. So a lot of people that I I know and all my good friends are basically on that same circuit. They're always chasing the wind, and every place has a specific season. So most people that are here right now are actually going to be in Brazil, and then most people that are in Brazil will also be in Mexico. So most of the time, all my friends are just hopping around on a similar timeline, and most people work remotely. A lot of my friends work in the industry, so everyone understands the wind hustle. People are adjusting their life to the wind. When it's windy, everyone's on the water and then testing out gear, trying new stuff, progressing, getting their jitters out. And then people just work early in the morning or in the evenings when the wind shuts off. And most people are nomadic in that sense, and they can work from anywhere.
Got it. So I didn't really put those pieces together, that the reason that you move around from season to season is to kind of follow where the wind is best.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, because it's gonna start snowing here.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we follow the wind wherever it blows.
Got it.
And wherever it blows best because we chase good conditions.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So a few more like shorter answer questions. One is, before I turn 40 years old, I want
Mhm.
to, and I know this is a long way off. You're super young, but what are some things that you would like to accomplish like before then?
Whoa. What would I like to accomplish?
Or when you
Wow.
envision your future self, because you were talking about the meditation, like envisioning your future self,
Mhm.
like what are some things that you see in your future? What does success look like in the next
Yeah. Well, when I envision my future self or see myself in the future, I'm still working on my confidence, and also one of my passion is to teach and to motivate and inspire others to feel their best and reach their goals, whatever that may be. But in order to do so, I would love to host like talks or even conferences and speak in front of people, and that's something really challenging to me. So one thing I visualize is myself being confident enough to speak in front of people. And that is often, it's just a mindset change where I'm like, okay, I'm not speaking for me. It's not about me. It's I'm speaking to help others. And that really changes in how hard it is to speak in front of people. But that's something I struggle with. Also, English is my first language, so sometimes there are some struggles or some insecurities around it. And yeah, just being a good presenter and a good speaker and having the confidence to show up to help and inspire others is something I really want to accomplish and get good at.
What do you want to talk about? If you schedule to talk next month, what would you talk about right now?
I mean, I can talk for hours about the sport, but to be a little bit outside my comfort zone, I would probably choose to talk to a group of women about the importance of the nervous system, because learning about the nervous system and how it has an influence on our behavior and our day to day and long term is something that changed a lot for me. Also, like in terms of eating, because women, the moment they think about food or start eating food, they're instantly stressed out. And if you're in fight or flight, the moment you put food in your mouth, it's not going to go so well, right? And women in particular just struggle so much more with weight and hormonal imbalances and stress. I mean, I'm not saying that men don't struggle with that, but it's a little bit more complex. And a lot of women just don't realize the complexity of it and how just having little changes and mindset changes and just enjoying your food and relaxing when eating and sitting down when eating, how much it can really affect what food does to your body.
Mm. That's a great point. Tell me more about that, because we're talking about not just, I mean, I'm curious what you eat as a athlete, but you're not talking about what you eat, but how you eat, which
Hmm.
is just as important.
Yeah, it's I mean, we're in a really stressed out. We live in a very stressed out lifestyle and day to day. The moment we get up, we're like coffee all day long, go, 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 especially women nowadays. I like regardless where they are currently, because women also move through a cycle, right? And every day is different. Some days in a row you're like tired and exhausted and your body needs more rest, but we're just forced to perform and get up and do our task and be our badass self every day. Just getting up and from the morning till night you're in that fight or flight response, and every time you eat standing up, you're eating in a rush, you're not letting your nervous system calm down, and um, you don't let yourself to move into that rest and digest phase where you can just like relax, breathe deeply, enjoy every bite. Your body will use that food and those nutrients very differently. Also, if you're in fight and flight, your blood is moved into your limbs so you can run fast, right? It's moved away from all your digestive organs. So it's just a whole cascade of things that happens when you're eating mindfully and in a relaxed state, and you can just appreciate the food and acknowledge, okay, this is nourishing me, rather than I'm eating again, I shouldn't be eating, this was way too much. It's just the mind is powerful and it has an influence on how you will use those nutrients that you're eating and if you're able to digest them as well.
Yeah. One of the other things I think, as you said, it impacts around food that impacts women more than men is sort of the body image mindset, right? And especially in female athletes. I was interviewing someone a few months ago who studied like energy imbalances, especially in endurance athletes at the college level, and people who women who were so low body fat they didn't have a period anymore, and the long term effects of that. I wonder, especially when you're wearing not a lot of clothes on a board much of your life. Do you think, what would you say around body image and especially advice to women in that area?
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak from my own experience, especially in this industry. Like I had many cases where it never mattered what I was doing on the board, like if I was performing well or showing off the trick I've worked hours and hours for to learn. And you see that on social media too. It's like just do whatever, but wear really short shorts and, show your backside on the board. And it works on social media and stuff, and it sells well, it markets well. But it's really discouraging for women to be like, why am I even putting the effort in to try so hard if we're not seen the same way? And even I had experiences in video shoots where the videographer just would not showcase my actual level that I was at. He would just use me as a pretty background all the time. And I was like, "Oh, it's so frustrating." If you were to do that to a guy that's performing at a high level and you not showcase their best performance, but just use them as a pretty background, it's like, it would be a no-go. They'd be like, are you kidding me? We want to showcase the absolute best performance of this athlete. And that's not the case for women, unfortunately, not in that industry yet. Sorry, I probably weird off that question a little
No,
bit. What
no,
was it?
I think that was perfect, and I hope that you can be a force for change in that, because it's probably true in lots of sports, but not it's probably also not as apparent to men as women, that it
Yeah,
exists.
yeah,
Yeah. Do you
unfortunately.
do you do anything to start your day to set yourself up for success? You were talking about kind of routines and mindful eating and those kinds of things.
Yeah, it takes me a minute I wake up usually pretty early at around 7:30, and I just need 30 minutes to just enjoy my coffee in peace and quiet. I try to not look at my phone and just sit and reflect, journal, write down what my day is going to look like. And lately I've been doing a lot of PT in the mornings just because it worked out that way that 7:45 I'm at PT doing my exercises. So that's my mornings. Then I get some work done. Then the wind kicks in. I train or I go for a run or a sprint first. Do resistance training depending on the day, whatever my schedule is looking like. Then I'm on the water or I'm coaching, and then when I get back, I relax for a bit and just zone out with my headphones.
I was wondering how you kind of balance the extreme nature, thrill-seeking nature of your sport and that mindfulness. Sometimes when I do, like, I was just mountain biking yesterday and did a long downhill, and your nervous system you talked about is, sometimes you're like really on high alert. Like your sympathetic nervous
Mm-hmm.
system is like on overdrive. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have other practices besides your daily meditation to kind of bring mindfulness into your routine and balance out that stimulation?
I enjoy, I mean, it's not necessarily conducive to my training, but I like just running in nature and being outside, no headphones, just like repetitive motion where I don't have to think that much, where I can just let my mind go, like running in the hills. Where I'm at, there's a lot of trails in the middle of nowhere. It's beautiful. And I just love, and it's not focused on the running that I'm doing. It's not focused on performing or getting better every time. It's just like being in that flow state and being outside and letting my mind roll,
Yeah.
process.
What is your mindset when you're training or competing or like on the board? Are you like in flow where you're kind of like relaxed and really focused, or is there still some fear there? What is
No,
that
I'm
like?
actually, thankfully, my mindset around competitions, I never had to work very hard on it. I was always in the zone and very focused. I'm doing really good under pressure and last minute things, and under pressure, I'm a good performer and good problem solver. I can get really calm and zone in and be really focused to an extent where during competition, when people try to talk to me, I'm like, I can't even hear them. I'm so like focused on the goal. And I really enjoy competing actually. It doesn't stress me out. I love it. I love taking tests too. I love performing. So, yeah, I
Awesome.
thrive in that environment.
Well, unless you're incredibly exceptional, you've had some failures along the way to get to any high level, to keep pushing and challenging yourself.
Hmm.
What are some is there a big failure that comes to mind, and did that set you up for like future success. Oftentimes we learn from those failures.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call them failures. It's just experiences and getting pushback or resistance from the environment or community. And one big thing I would remember, but I mean, it's not a bad thing because in turn, that resistance or that pushback made me push forward even harder. And just people telling me like, oh, what are you even trying to do? Or, the mocking comments of like, oh, you don't, what are you doing here? What are you trying to do? Like, oh, you're trying too hard and things like that, just from the environment or a group of people that, in looking back, it's like I can see what happened. It's like their response to feeling threatened or like having to share their space. It's like in surfing the same way. But now, like looking back, that resistance or a certain group of people not being very inclusive or not being very welcoming or nice in turn like made me just push and work even harder for it to be like, no, I belong here, I want this. So I wouldn't call that failure.
No, but it does require persistence. Some people would listen to those voices, whether in their head or external, and say maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
Hmm.
So it is a testament to your resilience and persistence to reach the level that you have. Are there things that you think are either misunderstood or just like bad advice in your sport? And like, would you give going back when you were starting, what advice would you give that you think is good advice to someone who's starting out, who really wants to like get into it?
My advice would be to spend the money on a good instructor or spend the money with a good school. I didn't know anything. I didn't have an environment. I didn't know a single person that was doing this sport. It was so new to me, but I was just really wanting to do it. So no one told me about the the dangers and the big consequences of messing up, and there is a lot. And if I would have known better, I would have just looked a little bit longer to get into it. Maybe I don't know what I would have done, but really just go with a good school and spend the money. If the lessons are really cheap, there's a reason why. You don't want to learn from someone that doesn't know what they're doing and are not aware of the consequences like I did.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
What level
Uh,
of proficiency, or like how long should someone have been doing the sport to attend one of the camps or retreats that you're doing?
we do everything from the very beginner to intermediate and advanced. So we host different camps with different levels. When it comes to wing foiling, since it's such a new sport, we do beginner to intermediate. And it's a little bit easier to manage, so we can do them all in one group. It's a great environment. And then with kiteboarding, we want them to have taken lessons before. If it's an intermediate camp, they should be able to get up on the board and somewhat stay upwind. But we also offer complete beginner packages, so everyone's welcome.
Awesome. Where can people find out more information about those and find you?
So you can find me on social media and on Instagram specifically. And then also the company is called Strut Kiteboarding, and we have a website and social media as well.
Awesome. We'll be sure to put that in the notes.
Perfect.
Is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up today?
I don't know, whatever you want to ask me.
Okay. You talked about wanting to do a bit more coaching and help people, particularly around accountability and the health and
Mhm.
wellness space.
Yeah.
Tell me more, like who's your ideal client, and like what would you help your client? What problems do they come with that you can particularly help them overcome?
Yeah, I myself had a lot of struggles with autoimmune issues and just struggling through the ups and downs of that and trying to balance dealing with the inflammation of autoimmune disease, but also training and trying to perform and not overtraining and just finding the balance and not putting myself out by just overdoing it a lot. And balancing all of it with nutrition and supplements and really finding a holistic way to move through it. And at the end, like, I'm at a point now where I don't feel limited by it at all. I haven't really felt the effect of the autoimmune issue in the past year, but I remember it totally took me out for days and weeks sometimes, where it was a real struggle. But was also the just running from doctor to doctor, and there was never talk about, did you try to relax, or did you try to change what you're eating? Did you try to, make lifestyle changes over just throwing medications at it? And I think I can just be a good person to have in your corner to keep you accountable, to track your progress, to see what works, what doesn't work, to guide you a little bit. At the end of the day, whoever comes to me for my help will have to commit to putting the work in, but it's so much easier to make progress if you have someone that holds you accountable and guides you a little bit and tracks progress.
Absolutely. If we could do a whole podcast on that, and we could call it meditation over medication.
Yeah, I like that.
My partner Heather actually just started working with a hypnotist or a hypnosis therapist for skin. You're like basically acne in a way, like skin breakout, and she's working with a virtual hypnotist and learning self hypnosis. And
Wow.
basically the link between the two is that it's around anxiety and stimulation of the nervous system, as we were talking about before. And so she's been on anti-anxiety medications for some time, but it hasn't really worked, and she's doing all these topical things and it's not working. And she's actually like, Michael, I really want you to try this self-hypnosis thing. And she was suggesting we do it together. And I'm like, I would never have thought, of that as the solution, of like
Yeah,
self-hypnosis for skin irritation. So there's lots of modalities out there, and having the right,
yeah.
the right person, the right coach, which doesn't even mean, it's not about accolades and credentials and things like that. I think one of the most important things when finding a coach is rapport and someone who really understands you,
Mhm.
and whether they've been through it themselves, or they've worked with enough clients who have had the same type of issues or challenges that you're having, so that they really understand you better than you understand you. So
Mhm.
that's
They can
that's
call
what
you
I
out
look
in
for
your
in a
bullshit a
coach.
little bit.
That's right. That's right.
It's
Yeah,
nice to have those in your corner too.
exactly. Cool. Well, any like parting words or closing thoughts before we wrap up today?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and asking the right questions too. It's a great conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
just plug your social media again. Where can people find you?
On Nadja Bianchet. It's my first and my last name, and it's spelled Nadja Bianchet.
Awesome. And that's
And I'll
on
ship
Instagram
Instagram,
and
Facebook, everywhere.
awesome. Well, thank you
Mhm.
so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
You've been listening to Performance Lab. I'm Dr. Michael Donovan, reminding you that peak performance is a journey, not a destination. For more cutting edge insights and actionable tips, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media. Until next time, keep pushing your limits and stay tuned to the Performance Lab.